What is up, you guys? Welcome to the 31 Nights of Halloween here on the Real Radar Radio Show. Super excited to be starting this brand new month with you guys. It has been forever and a day since I did something this remotely awesome. And when I mean, in terms of, anything exciting with the show, but this is the 31 Nights of Halloween series, the first of, 31, obviously. But, man, I am just super stoked, super excited to be doing this brand new month of October, whole kickoff to, the countdown for Halloween. It's just been awesome. I had a fun time just compiling sounds, compiling some music, getting stuff together. It's going to be a lot of fun. 31 nights, 31 brand new episodes of the Real Radar Radio Show all throughout the month of October. Live shows every Friday or Saturday night. I have not decided yet, even though today is the first day of October. It is the first of, a lot of new opportunities for me to present some pretty cool shit for the show. Like I said, I had a few things on my mind that I wanted to try out for the month of October, kind of get things in full swing with Halloween around the corner. So it's just been a whole big smorgasbord of details and secrecy that I've been trying to keep under wraps and trying not to say too much and kind of stay away from social media so I could just kind of focus on just handing out separate shows and kind of just adding it up here and there. But yeah, man, October 1st, today is just, it's awesome. I mean, knowing that we're past September, we're past the summer season, we can dive into the fall season. It's gonna be a lot of fun, guys. I promise you that. Yeah, so one of the things that I wanted to discuss since it is October is obviously horror movies, conspiracy theories, paranormal things that are going around, maybe some horror stories of you guys that you guys might have on your own that you might want to share, or more so send to me to read on the show for you guys. And with that being said, I had so many more stories and stuff that I would like to read on the show and provide some sort of music accompaniment, followed by some some special effects, some sound effects. Not special effects, obviously this is a fucking show, radio show. Some sound effects, some sound bits, kind of make it all nice and mysterious and whatnot. I mean, I think it's since it is Halloween, it's spooky season, bitches. I mean, come on, it doesn't get any better than this. It's gonna be a lot of fun, and I want to kick off this show by welcome you guys, obviously describing everything that the show is about throughout the month of October. If you guys listened last year through the 30 Days of Halloween last year, that was just a big proportion of it where I was mainly focused on just talking about certain horror films and kind of just peeling back the layer of not secrecy, but the level of I guess supportive ideas that came with those movies, came with a bunch of those movies that I discussed. And there's a lot more of that this year. I'm obviously still talking about the Scream franchise. I'm still delving into Nightmare on Elm Street. I want to touch base with a few things that are coming up. In the last show, I did talk about the upcoming movie Countdown. I had a huge discussion about that film, and blatantly discussed everything that comes with the show. So comes with that show. I mean, comes with that movie. It was a lot of I guess you could say good, honest, opinionated details that I had given from the last show, and I felt like I didn't really hold back when it came to the movie Countdown. the movie Countdown, for me, if you guys are not familiar with it, or this is the first time you're hearing it, Countdown is a movie that basically tells the story of how you download this app, and it's sort of like a Dr. Death kind of thing. You download the app, and it tells you how long you have before you live. Wow, okay. First show. Bloopers, right? There's no editing. Okay, so the premise of the movie is that you download an app, and the app tells you how many days before you die, and how many years, and all that sort of shit. My argumentative state behind this whole Countdown movie was that we already had a movie, come to us not too long ago. I guess you could say it's been a while, but does anybody remember One Missed Call? Come on, it was a pinnacle horror movie, very underrated. Not a lot of people, really liked it. I don't think a lot of people really saw it. There's a lot that goes on in that movie that makes so much more sense rather than, downloading an app and telling you how you're gonna die. I mean, how creative do you have to be to, I guess, recycle an idea like that? I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not a hypocrite, and I'm not, trying to say that, every horror movie has been done. I mean, you look at the Annabelle franchise, and yes, I'm going to talk about the Annabelle franchise. I'm going to talk about The Conjuring. I'm going to talk about all these hippy-dippy weird shit movies that seem to be so popular with everybody about the Conjuring universe, and Insidious, and Annabelle, and all this other dumb shit that just so happens to be considered horror nowadays. It just doesn't seem that logical. I mean, yeah, the idea has been recycled. It's been told many times. We get the story of a demented, haunted doll, or possessing the spirit of some child, and this and that or the other. It's been done. We've seen this in Poltergeist. We've seen this in Child's Play. We've seen this in, I don't know, basically every horror movie that's been coming out in the year 2018, 2017, and so back and so forth. And now we have the idea of this movie for Countdown, and it's been kind of attached to the fact that it's already been done already. I mean, I wouldn't want to pay money to see a movie that just probably will perform, if little to very little, mediocrely at the box office. I mean, what was there to expect from a movie like this? What is the high expectations for a film such as Countdown? So before I did this show, before I started the 31 Nights of Halloween series, I did a little digging, and I did a lot of extensive looking into One Missed Call. And the movie One Missed Call is actually a American remake of a Japanese movie, which of the same name, but obviously in Japan. And this movie tells exactly, scene for scene, the exact same movie that you see in the American version compared to the Japan version. And I really like it because there's just a lot of great storyline, details that coincide with the story. It resonates with, what the story is being told, how you should approach it. It's mysterious enough on its own where, the ringtone that goes off from the movie is, scary enough. I mean, if you have an idea of the same, I guess, realm of possibility, Countdown having the same idea as One Missed Call, with it being, an app and all, it's kind of downplayed to the fact that you have, developers who create apps, who create, these sort of projects and programs, that you're able to download on your phone. And even, you can download, not a lot of people know this, but you can download apps that aren't found in the App Store through like third-party, services or third-party websites, that, hot apps basically, like obviously there's when you go to the App Store and, for example, you want to buy the Sports Illustrated app, or you want to buy some other app that requires payment that's not necessarily free. You can literally go to a third-party site and somebody will jailbreak that app, buy the app, jailbreak it, and make it available for you to download. Which is, the fact with a lot of, apps that you see that are not on the App Store, but you've heard about. But a couple years ago, when I switched over, I had an iPhone before I had an Android. So when I had an iPhone, I was looking for this jailbroken app called Happy Chick. And long story short, the app Happy Chick is a emulator app that allows you to play Super Nintendo apps, Super Nintendo games, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance games, PlayStation, Xbox, GameCube, Nintendo 64, and Super Nintendo games, all on your phone. And I believe it was probably the best thing since like sliced bread, probably, because who wouldn't want to play fucking Mario Kart N64 on their phone while you're waiting for the bus, or while you're waiting for something to happen, or while you're trying to kill time, basically. So I had downloaded a jailbroken app of that app to make available on my iPhone so I could play. However, you and I, and pretty much everybody fucking knows that when you buy an app or look for an app on the App Store, when you have an iPhone, it's very highly unlikely you're going to find an app that's, of that nature. So the App Store does not allow the app Happy Chick on their stores because it really isn't, made for iPhones. When I switched over to Android and I looked it up on the App Store, it was right there. Top download. Downloaded it, had it on my phone for the longest time, played it, was able to play, arcade games, N64, so on and so forth. Still have it on my phone. Best way to kill time when I'm, when you're on a long road trip, or you're, just killing time, basically. You have, unlimited time and, opportunity to, play games that you grew up with, and, enjoy the nostalgia on the go, basically. Smartest thing any developer has ever made for a phone, I believe. It's just convenient, it's a lot of fun. You get to have fun on the go, and you get to show people, hey, I'm playing fucking N64 on my fucking phone. That's just badass. I would want to have been the one to have developed that, but hey, I got a radio show. Win-win, right? But yeah, long story short, when people develop apps and people develop products and stuff, and it's not available for on the App Store, and it's really made available from like third-party websites and stuff, it's considered a hot app. Basically, it's an app that's not registered in the App Store or Google Play or any of that shit, and it's made to, I guess, either infect your phone, give your phone a virus, some sort of way to fuck up your phone's, mainframe, motherboard, or whatever the case may be. So I believe with the movie Countdown, you're downloading an app that's made available on the phone's App Store within the movie. The dumb thing that I think is about this is that, this has already been done in like early 2000s, where we visited websites when we were at school. We visited DrDeath.com or, DeathWatch.com, whatever, and it would tell you a fictional time, how many years you have left to live, minutes, seconds. It's just a random timer set to a random date, and it gives you, nobody knows. In reality, nobody knows. That's the mystery behind it all. Nobody knows. It's a good premise if you're playing it right at the right angle. I understand that the studio and everybody is trying to, I guess, dive forward for this certain type of premise in the storyline, because it attracts the younger audiences, that are app-driven, technology-based, everybody's always on their phone. I get that. But what I want to see is a horror movie that does not include the use of a fucking cell phone. Every horror movie now that you look at besides your beloved Annabelle series and The Conjuring and all that other shit, it involves a cell phone. You look at Happy Death Day 2. Obviously, it's a time jump or a Back to the Future, time travel type of bullshit. I don't know. I didn't understand that movie. It has a kick-ass soundtrack, I'll give it that, but for what it's worth, that movie sucked too. I think it was just a waste. The first one was smart, obviously. The first one was smart, but the second one just came off as like a comedy type more than a horror, scary type of thing. And now, we had, the Halloween sequel hit theaters last year, and it was, widely successful. It made a lot of money, generated a lot of, box office buzz, potentially set it up for another sequel, and it was just recently announced for a sequel for part 3 and 4, which is going to be, great. Halloween Kills and Halloween Ends. It's going to be awesome. Jamie Lee Curtis returns for both of them. Hey, that's a money-making, situation right there, but also that's smart horror. That's good horror. That's safe horror. We all know it's going to make a lot of money. It's going to do great at the box office, and we know that's going to generate, other franchises to maybe take the leap forward and maybe jump into this whole, wheelhouse of, reviving the horror genre. The Scream franchise just had the 3rd season of the Scream TV series make itself readily available on Netflix. And obviously that alone, a lot of people were clamoring for the 3rd season of Scream, and it just happened to work out. People, responded to it. It's, doing, it's really successful. I don't know if there's going to be a 4th season, and I don't know if there's going to be any jump into a 5th Scream film. It's just speculation at this point, but there is a couple of good, fan-made, Scream sequels on YouTube. If you go and you look online and you do some digging through YouTube, and you'll find, hey, there's actually a couple of good Scream, storylines that, kind of, look pretty good. For it being a fan-made film and stuff, they look pretty good. You can basically find pretty much anything on YouTube if you really wanted to. If you're really a hardcore, diehard fan of a certain movie or film or a horror franchise like I am, you'll probably find, some sort of, great fan-made film that actually ties into the main film, and it actually makes a lot of sense, and it actually turns out to be really good, in my opinion. But lately, I think the horror genre could use some sort of like a revival, as much of a jump, as possible, because you get, films like Halloween that had already made a lot of, good revenue and a lot of, head-turning decisions when Blumhouse picked it up. And then there was a rumor for the longest time that Blumhouse was going to pick up Scream, that Blumhouse was going to, redo A Nightmare on Elm Street. Obviously, Blumhouse is the powerhouse of bringing horror back to, the genre, and making horror, the greatest that it has been in the longest time. So I think it's smart. I think it'd be really, really safe, a lot of fun to see what direction, Blumhouse is going to go in approach to upcoming projects, later down the road. I, for one, would like to see some justice be done for Freddy Krueger, man. We had the remake with Jackie Earle Haley, and I think he played Freddy Krueger pretty convincingly. I think the direction that New Line and the studio and, Andrew Form and Brad Fuller took approach with this, with Platinum Dunes, kind of moving forward with the fact that it just didn't seem logical. The whole fact that, you're bringing the story of Freddy Krueger back to the big screen, and you're presenting him to this, group of people who is, yes, it is, revitalized for the modern day and age. Good premise, good storyline, bad director, I believe. I think the story was strong. It made a lot of sense. The direction was kind of iffy. I mean, you had Samuel Bayer, who has never directed a feature film, who only directed music videos, such as Nirvana music videos for TV and stuff. He has never made a feature film. He has never directed a feature film, full-length film whatsoever. So now he's doing this first-time director's cut of Nightmare on Elm Street, and I guess it just seemed kind of weary, kind of worn off, because the cinematography shots that were done for the film, that were attached to the film, just didn't seem to add up to the storyline. The storyline was great. I mean, if you really sit and analyze the film itself, it plays out beautifully. The story lays out, great. The premise is great. The antagonist, protagonist, the fact that Freddy Krueger was painted as this one, version of somebody when he was, somebody else, and the harsh reality that he actually was what the parents feared the most that he is, and it just turned out to be, directed in a very different way when you look at it. But I, for one, think that the film could have been directed a little bit better in terms, cinematography shots. It set up a lot of continuity errors when it came to transitions from scenes, whether it was from the beginning of the film to maybe the middle. I think the end result in the ending of the film was more compiled, the best than it was since the beginning. But the beginning of the film, the middle of the film, toward the middle of the film, those shots were kind of misconstrued, and it just seemed a little choppy. But overall, the film was mediocre at the box office. It did okay. Didn't really ignite the fact that there was going to be more films. But New Line and Platinum Dunes had a lot of faith and a lot of good intentions for revitalizing the entire franchise of the Nightmare on Elm Street, because they had signed on Jackie Earle Haley to do 2 or 3 more films after the initial reboot, and we all know it didn't really end up that way, and with good good reason. I mean, the film came out in 2010, 2010, and it did okay. I mean, I remember sitting there in the theater and watching it, and I remember I was so excited, man. I was balls to the walls excited, because I remember watching the trailer, and I remember the trailer came out, and it was around the time Facebook was bringing in trailers and movie studios and stuff to promote their stuff on Facebook, and it was just a lot of fun. I remember seeing it on YouTube, watching the trailer constantly, waiting to see when the international trailer was going to be released, more footage, reading almost every article that I could online about this. And then I was so excited. I was at the theater, and I watched this film by myself, and I was just so into it, man. I didn't take anybody with me, and I didn't want no one to distract me. I wanted to really delve into this. And then when I watched it, and then I got into it, and I was like, you know what? This really is decent. And then reviews started coming in for this film, and people were just hating on it, man. And I'm not the one to go off of what critics say, because I'm my own person. I like my own reviews that I give for movies are pretty unbiased, but they're pretty straightforward. I'll tell it like it is. They make so much more sense. But if there's one or two continuity things in there that don't make sense, or they just don't really add up to the story in a way that they should have been, which would have been deemed, appropriate or smart, then yeah, I'll call it out, because it just seems so wrong if I was to just ignore the fact that, hey, Freddy could have sliced and diced this chick, but ultimately decided not to, because, hey, she's the main the main actress, the main one. He had multiple opportunities to slice her. I mean, more than once, more than 3, I think. But I mean, I obviously understand that's how a story unfolds. you try to save the best for last, and of course, the best for last sometimes doesn't play out that way, and sometimes it just seems to fall on deaf ears, I guess. But I mean, for what it's worth, man, I think the film was done decently good, and I'm pretty disappointed that a lot of critics just didn't seem to see that film in the exact same light that I did. But I mean, I was pretty strong about it, and I had faith in it, and I still kindly regard it as a really good film. And I have it there on DVD at the apartment, and I'll watch it. And when they show it on TV, I'll watch it. But I mean, I had a lot of faith in it because in 2009, when Platinum Dunes released Friday the 13th, I was in awe, man. That film for me made me look forward to Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was just like, you know what, Platinum Dunes is onto something, man. They're creating these, they're revitalizing, they're rebooting films, and they're doing good. They had a good, successful run with Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Looked great, cinematically from a cinematographer standpoint. Looking at these shots that they had set up for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, beautifully done. They were amazing. The shots were good. The scenery, that implicates, that where the house was located, and the surrounding areas and stuff. They looked great. I mean, it played into the scenery, it played into the story setting, and it looked great. And then you looked at Friday the 13th, and I looked at a version of Camp Crystal Lake that I thought I'd never see, that I've never seen before at all. And you look at the old, concept art for the reboot for Friday the 13th. The camp looks nothing like the way that they had dressed it up, and the entire film was shot in Austin or in Texas, surrounding areas in Austin around there, and it looked great, man. I never seen Texas represented, on film that that vastly, and even more so, made it look so much more creepier with the night shots, and how they presented Jason, how he was this rampaging juggernaut psychotic guy, and he was just on the move, man. He was on his shit, and he seemed to be a lot more smarter than previous films. But again, I do take in consideration that it is a reboot, it is a restory, reimagining, retelling of the same story. But I mean, I think it was done pretty smart. And then I'm kind of disappointed that the fact that Platinum Dunes is not doing horror films anymore. It's kind of like, you're good, and then we just decided not to. And then I don't know, man. I was really disappointed in the fact that they don't do it anymore. They're not doing them anymore, and it's been a few years. And man, I really wish that they would have given Nightmare on Elm Street another shot at it. But I, for one, would have thought, hey, man, I mean, who wouldn't want another, Nightmare on Elm Street film? Especially Jackie Earle Haley. I mean, that guy is really talented, and he knows what he's doing. I mean, he played Freddy to a really good, standard. He played him to a really good high percentage of, how he played him, and he did it great, man. He did a great job. And I was really surprised at it. I mean, even from the trailer alone, I was just convinced that he was gonna be, that it was gonna be, amazing that way. But I don't know, man. I mean, I know that we still got 31 more days of Halloween shows, 30 more shows to go. This is the 31 Nights of Halloween series, and I want to thank you guys so much for joining me on this first episode. It's been a lot of fun, and I can't wait to see you guys in more shows. Obviously, it's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, I really hope that you guys enjoy the first episode. Episode 2 will be coming out August 2nd at 9 p.m. All these shows are coming out at night, so that makes, so much more sense. But I will see you guys in the next episode, and we'll discuss some more on horror movies and continuity and some other stuff, We'll keep it a surprise. Okay, I'll see you guys in the next episode.